So this is amazing. I've met you before last year actually at this event, but I have been following you for a while.
Yeah.
And you do DadCars. Just tell everybody who you are and what you do, and I think what you're doing is remarkable.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so my name's Ben. I run the DadCars YouTube channel, and it's about car reviews, but also just car content. But I do it uniquely. I do it with my 4 young children. So the reason I started it really was just because I thought I just wanted to make memories with my children in exciting cars, driving all the cars that I dreamt about, but with them as well. And the reason I include them in the videos originally was just I thought, look, no one watches this, even if it makes 50p and it's like a complete waste of time and it costs loads of money for me to do it, I still felt like I couldn't lose, because I would have those videos to look back on in 20 years. My children would have those videos to look back on in 20 years. My grandchildren would be able to see their mum when they're like 3 years old in the back of a Ferrari, like when granddad's driving them around. So that's why it started like that. And then just, over time, parents are finding the channel, other like-minded dads who refuse to buy a boring crossover. They find a way of getting even 2+2s, and I show like child seats going in the back, and look, it just keeps growing, and it's amazing, really.
So when did you start it?
It's been a little over 2 years now.
In 2 years, and now you've got a stand here at the NEC Classic Motor Show.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing.
A brown car guy.
But the reason this is so important, though, is particularly young children. Coming to shows like this, all these incredible, majestic cars around, but it's not really like an environment for young children as well. Because walking around loads, they're going to get irritable, and there's no real kind of place normally. And also, you don't want your children to be bored and associate being bored and cars, and because that could start, the wrong thing. So look, it's a pit stop. It's a pit stop for parents with young children. They can come here, they can do some free colouring in, they can chill out, on the soft play mat and things like that. And then when they're recharged, they can grab a free car hunt sheet, go around, try and find all of the classic car badges, tick them all off, and then they can come back later when they need a break again and get some free sweets. So that's the idea, and it's just to encourage more, because you've always got like the hardcore petrolheads who bring their child along who's also just into cars, but we need to get more of this next generation to at least have an appreciation for these cars.
I think that's a fundamental point, and I think that a lot of the conversations, actually, funnily enough, today I've been having with people is exactly about that. Is the fact that these shows are great, they've been going a long time, but I think the time is limited unless we can get the next generation involved.
Yes, it's going to happen. Like in our lifetime, there's going to be a social debate. No matter what, look, I'm not somebody who's thinking, 2035 and all that sort of thing. I just think there's going to be a social debate. And there'll be, I can see news articles like, should we have these stinky, polluting, dangerous cars that have no driver assisting aids on our roads? Should we get them off the roads? And so not only do we need policymakers, the next generation of policymakers, to have an appreciation for these cars, but we also need just the general public. So when that debate starts happening, there's enough people in the general public that are sort of saying, no, I used to go to the NEC Classic Motor Show with my dad. I love those cars. They're important parts of our heritage, our history. They're wonderful, majestic things. Seeing them float down the road's an event. We need to keep them on the road. And in order to do that, I think the whole car enthusiast community, regardless of what brand or what era you're into, we need to come together and make a conscious effort to try and get this next generation.
I completely and totally agree with you, and I think that's something there you've just put your finger on it. The next generation of these kids are the next generation of policymakers, industry leaders, politicians. And even at the moment, I think one of the issues I lament about is that we don't have enough car people in politics. We don't have enough people that really empathize or sympathize with what we're all about here.
No, look, it's true. Without going on a tangent, I think that's like a big part as well of like when they make these decisions, like ULEZ. There's a little thing going on with ULEZ which you might know about, but like it's I don't think for like the masses of people, like the people who potentially make these policy decisions, they're probably in privileged positions. They probably got off-road parking. They probably can have a company car. They can do all of these things, and that's why certain cars make more sense to them. But I mean, I grew up in one of the most densely populated cities in Europe, Portsmouth. And all of my friends, family growing up, we went from one sub £5,000 used car to the next. Like, we never spent any more money than that because we couldn't afford it. And also, you can't park on your own street, all of these things. And when you start seeing all this more and more sort of red tape and things coming in, I think you're forgetting about the masses of people who aren't in privileged positions, and so we can't have it that having a car and using a car easily and freely becomes something that only people in privileged positions can do. Like, that's something else that worries me as well.
Which is how it's going to get. Hey, are you liking this video? Then make sure that you hit the like button. That's really important. Also, tell everybody. The other thing I learned about you today, which I totally relate to, is that the car that inspired you was the Lotus Esprit, and my all-time favorite car is also the Lotus Esprit.
Oh, come on! Like the side profile of the Lotus Esprit.
It is the purest form of the wedge shape.
Yeah. Like any 8-year-old who looks at even just the shadow side profile of a Lotus Esprit, it emotes something within you, doesn't it? And look, I've never owned one. I've had a Lotus Elise. That was one of my dream cars, but I've always, at some point, I will tick you and me both. Another thing I want to touch on is the fact that one of the great things that you do, a lot of people when they have kids, they think, oh, we need to go out and buy a SUV of some kind, a boring new SUV. But what you're proving is that's not the case. I was mentioning earlier on stage is that when I had our firstborn, I owned a 1988 Honda CRX, and I didn't go and buy an SUV. I figured out how to jury rig the baby seat into it and drop him in through the hatch on the back. But you're doing the same thing. Exactly right. Look, what you did. You were a dadcarist. I mean, like ever since the 911 came out, the very first 911, that it was dadcarist. I mean, I called the channel DadCars, and it's like this thing. But basically, if there's a car you really want that just puts a smile on your face, like I love those CRXs, by the way. But and you can find a way. And you talked about SUVs as well. On my channel, I constantly highlight the fact that SUVs are not all things to all families. They're not the ultimate thing in practicality. In actual fact, they're not actually that practical. They're more expensive to run. They're harder on consumables, that sort of thing. Miles per gallon is bad, and practicality is not always that good. I personally think an Estate is a far better family car than an SUV or a crossover, certainly.
Well, what you have behind you is actually, it's an absolutely bonkers car. I remember reviewing this car when it first came out, and just thinking it's like a spaceship. Yeah. It is literally landed from outer space. Tell people about this thing. Yeah,
so I've got a Renault Aventime here. No, it's not the V6. That's what everyone always asks. It's the 2-litre turbo petrol, but it's a manual, which is quite cool. But yeah, I mean, I think probably the second time in my whole life that I saw one of these in the flesh was when it popped up and I decided to go and buy it that morning. I wasn't even looking for one. I just found myself gravitated towards it, and then next thing I know, I bought it. But it's actually a wonderful family car. Never made that much sense to me before. Obviously, I knew it from Top Gear, but because the rear bench is kind of like a theatre seating, so it's a little bit higher, and then with the pillarless windows, glass roof, children can see everything. I call it the ultimate I Spy machine. So
it's extraordinary. I think the space inside is incredible, absolutely incredible. And who is this?
This is pickle number 2. So I've got 4 children, and this is my second pickle. And you've been in so many cool cars with me, haven't you? You were with me when we drove Daddy's dream car. The best car I've ever driven, my dream car, the ultimate dad car king, is the Ferrari FF, and we've actually got one over there. One of my kind subscribers brought it over. That's my dream. I'm years away from that.
I'll tell you what, another thing that we can relate to is actually I picked up my kids from school in Dubai in a Ferrari FF. I was the coolest dad in the school on that day.
Oh God, isn't it? What a machine, right? If I'm thinking about driving it right now, and the hairs on the back of I'm not even talking about it, and the hairs on the back of my neck are standing on end. That's engine.
But the thing about the cars, the supercars, and things like that, is that you can share that experience with your family.
Absolutely, it's a true 4-seater. Adults can fit in the back, and so obviously it's got Isofix in the back as well. The only problem with that for me is that I've got 4 children, and there's no way of getting more than 3 children in an FF with the dad driving, obviously. So it'll have to be like a second car. But we're talking years down the line. But we've got to have dreams, right? We've got to have dreams.
You've done some amazing work. I think that's incredible what you've done. And I think that the way that you approach cars and the way that you talk about them, I think is absolutely brilliant. I think it's more relevant than a lot of people talk about cars. I think it's very important what you do, and keep doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'll be so sad to see if your BMW goes. I can't even imagine you not having that BMW. So if it does go, you have to replace it with something equally epic, which I don't envy that task, because I don't know how you're going to do it.
Thanks so much, mate.
Nice
See you again soon.
Thank you.
Hi guys, I've been writing. This is my first book, a novel, an all-out action thriller, and this one is a collection of 13 stories I've written over the course of 2 decades. The Ulysses Files and The Quantum Races by BC Guy are out now on Amazon.com. Shout out time guys, thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links, or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps, it really does.